Hello everybody. I'm going to give this a try and see how we get on. I'm kind of stuck for light and cameras, but I'll show you what I'm doing, taking the front wheel off, and let's just see how it goes. Okay, tools that you need: Phillips head screwdriver, and that's to take off the two retaining screws that go into these two holes there and there on the caliper cover. And this is also useful to put through the end of the axle bolt to help you to draw it out when the time is right, and I'll explain that a bit more when we get there. You'll also need, what have we got here, a 12 spanner, which is to remove, if you look at that way, to remove these two bolts off the caliper if necessary, but it's there just in case. And this is an H8, I think, 130mm Allen key to remove the cinch bolt off the opposite fork leg. And this is a size 24mm ring spanner, which is going to take off the nut from the end of the axle bolt, which is just down here. Okay, so let's just make a start. I'll try and keep the sound up, and we'll see how we go. I've already loosened this, so I'll just remove that. There we go, and it's got a built-in washer to the nut, so that just needs to be cleaned off and lightly greased when we put it back in again, or on again. You should be able to just move the axle bolt gently, but if not, we'll just take, sorry, let me take you around this side. I don't know if you can see that, but at the end of the axle bolt there is a hole which this can go in and just turn it slightly when it's ready. So undo the cinch bolt, not sure if you can see that, but we'll just crack on. And you'll see now that the axle bolt is free to rotate, and that screwdriver just helps you with you pulling it out. So we'll remove this entirely, because that can be cleaned. This needs to be cleaned off and re-greased. Okay, so that's that. And the axle bolt can now just be drawn out, pushed gently from the right side and manoeuvred out. Okay. Right, there's the axle bolt, and you'll notice that the wheel and all its paraphernalia is still in the bike. Okay, so we're going to raise the bike up a little bit progressively, leaving the wheel back on the ground, and all of these bits will loosen themselves off, so just bear with me for a second. Take the spacer out, put it up on there, and on this right hand side we're going to remove this one down here. We're going to remove the speedo drive, leaving it attached to the speedo cable, and lift the bike now to get the wheel clear of the mudguard. It doesn't need much, but it does need a little bit, as you can see. Right. There we go. Right, just raise it up a bit more. Okay. Okay, I think as you can see, there's not a great deal of spare room inside that mudguard, because the side walls of the tyre here were just gripping on the inside of the moulding of the mudguard. So it stands to reason. You must be very accurate on your tyre sizes and follow the advice of the workshop manual. Oversized front tyres could be a hazard in that they would be difficult to get inside the mudguard, and then they would constantly rub as you were riding the bike. So take heed. Don't try and be clever. Follow the advice of the workshop manual. Okay, now as you can see, let me just lower this a bit. So you can see the speedo drive hanging down there, and we'll do it when we get there, but you'll notice that there will be one way of putting this onto the bike, and one way only. Okay. When we start putting the wheel back, it is likely that we're going to have to remove the caliper, just so that we've got as much space inside here as possible. But when we put the new tyre in and then lower the bike onto the tyre to match up the mounting holes on the forks, and with the caliper out of the way, it just gives you a bit more wiggle room. And then once everything is bolted on, the caliper can be rebolted back onto the bracket over the disc. Okay, now you'll also see that I have actually put a strap on this just for safety's sake. The bike's not going to go anywhere, but just to show you that if you need to do it, it doesn't need to be particularly elaborate. There's a ratchet strap on there, hooked onto the bottom of the platform, and then done up and over the crash bar, and I'm assuming that most of you will have crash bars on. So it's just wrapped around that crash bar and tied. It's not elaborate and it's not fancy, but it's just to give that little bit of added security. Not necessary, because the bike is fairly stable on the platform anyway. But for peace of mind, you might just want to do that. Okay, so the wheel is off. I'm going to experiment putting the new one back on, just to make sure I don't embarrass myself on video. And so the procedure will be the reverse. Obviously we'll do it carefully, clean everything up and put everything back. Not that there's a lot to go back. There's the axle bolt to go across through the speedo drive on the right hand side, and there's a wheel spacer on the left hand side, and then there's the washer nut on the outside, and I'll give you the torque setting of that once I've found my workshop manual. It needs to be snug, but I'll check the readings anyway, and then you can adjust yours accordingly. Okay, so with this being part 2, I hope it all made sense and it kind of worked for you. Any comments, obviously, please let me know, and I'll do part 3, which, all being well, will be putting the replacement tyre, that one, on the original rim that belongs to this bike, and I'll be putting that back on there in the next video. Okay, so I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.